once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin. I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Jus?
Hey, Gav.
And Pascal. Evening, Paz.
What's up, Gav?
Good, mate. Good. Just watched the Luton game. I don't know if either of you saw the Luton-Chelsea game. Luton might actually break Derby's record for least points.
Really?
That is one of the worst teams I've ever seen in the Premier League.
Really? Was it that? Was it because they lost to Chelsea, or is it
3-0? I mean, it was that bad. I mean, they were absolutely diabolical. So bad.
Yeah.
They don't look like they've got a single Premier League player.
Well,
you can't be losing 3-0 to your nearest relegation rival. It's not.
You can't. That's a 6-pointer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute 6-pointer that. So yeah, that's them done. That's them done then.
So as an American, I'm not so interested, or not interested, but I'm not so knowledgeable about their history. So they were a real long shot, right? Like,
yeah, they basically went all the way down to non-league. Like, they went out of the league. They were in the top flight in the late 80s and early 90s. They got relegated. They must have got relegated in 90 or 91, just before the Premier League started. And they went all the way down to non-league, and they've come all the way back up. But they've got a tiny little ground where you actually enter through someone's backyard.
Really?
Yeah, the away end goes underneath someone's house and through their backyard. It's pretty immense.
They were always a tough team to play against.
Well, they had a plastic pitch.
Yeah,
so in the 80s, they had a plastic pitch, and it was a nightmare playing there in the 80s.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. I mean, I've heard a lot of local based Arsenal fans talk about them as being, basically like brush asides or whatever.
Yeah, they're a fun little club, but it's kind of bizarre that they got. I'm glad to see them back. They got a great badge. Love their badge, but it's been a while since they were a good team. They had Lars Elstrup for a while. I always remember him scoring at ours. All right, so back to the game in hand, which is us versus Fulham. Let's start with a Who Am I game. So we're going to do, and I'm going to remember to give you the answer this time because I forgot Marouane Chamakh last time. So
I'm glad because I didn't get that right.
Well, I'll give you the.
I told him too. I was like, I didn't know.
It seemed to be difficult for everyone. Moaning Imran said to me, "I can't get it," and I'm like, "How can you not get it? I think this is the easiest one I've done." But,
hey, Gav, since you reference Moaning Imran every single episode, can you explain? Can you please tell them that that's not his actual name, but it's a nickname?
Well, it's kind of his name. His name's Imran, and he moans a lot, so he's called Moaning Imran. He was. It was given to us by the four guys that used to sit in front of us. We'd literally walk into the clock end, and always like 5 minutes before kickoff, and as we'd go down, Lionel, who sat in front of us, would turn around and go, "Oh, Moaning Imran's in." And that was it. So he's been Moaning Imran since, I don't know, the late 90s. He's always been Moaning Imran.
We always feel that we know your friends, Gav, because you name them. So what's that, Billy the Whammer or something? Who's
Bernie the Whammer.
Bernie the Whammer. Then we've got
they've all got descriptive. Yeah, they've all got descriptive names.
So I kept track, and there was an 11 episode run that you mentioned Moaning Imran.
Well, that's because he's like part of my Arsenal supporting life. A large part of my Arsenal.
That's more than Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, me and Moaning Imran went all over the country. Yeah, we'll come on to him later on. Anyway, we digress. Yes. So here we are. Are you ready for the Who Am I game?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
So I started my career at Southampton. I moved to Arsenal, for whom I played 74 games. I went on loan to Middlesbrough, then on loan to Fulham, where I appeared 31 times before I moved permanently to Aston Villa. Who am I?
Oh, I got it, mate.
I got it too.
Wow, I got that one Justin too. Straight in. Look at that.
Another fave of Gavin.
Yep, another fave.
Yeah. Yep, it's true. A player that should have been gone about 6 years before he was. Anyway, So let's get stuck into the game on Saturday. Starting lineups, lads. On one hand, I feel like you can't pick our starting lineup at the minute, right? There's so many different options and all that. On the other hand, all Arteta does is put out the team he did the week before, except for the one change that he has to make, which this week is obviously Tomiyasu. So, Pass, is it as simple as it's the same team, but with Zinchenko coming in for Tomiyasu?
I really hope Gabriel's in. I think I would, if Gabriel's not in the starting lineup, I'm worried. That's what I'm going to tell you. So I'm assuming that he's in, because the dilemma between Partey and Rice and whether you play them together, that's one thing. But if that's what he's trying to avoid, I don't feel that's the right thing to do. I think you have to play Gabriel in there. They got United after that, so the more fitness he can gain and first team action. So I'm hoping, but I'm 50-50 on whether he does that. So I don't know what to say and what I think he will do. But I would probably, if I had to guess, I would hope and think that he will be playing Gabriel and putting Ben White at right back, and then Zinchenko at left back. Then the midfield is the one where I'm debating on what he does, because I don't think he's going to drop Havertz, especially against Fulham. So I would think he puts Rice in the hole, Havertz, Odegaard, Nketiah, Martinelli, Saka.
Oh wait, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Judge, is there any chance at all that Trossard comes in place of Martinelli in this one? Martinelli was fantastic on opening week, didn't have the greatest game on Monday night. Obviously, Trossard's going to be champing at the bit to play. Any chance that happens?
I don't think so. No, and I think Arteta, he really likes his impact players. You remember that whole thing where he called them, impactors, not subs or whatever. I think he likes what Trossard can bring off the bench
in the 78th minute. Yeah,
exactly. And well, it's better than the 102nd minute for like Emile Smith Rowe. So but no, I do think he likes that Trossard. It's kind of a rare talent to be able to do something off the bench. Not every player can do it. And Nketiah, as we've discussed before, isn't really much of an impact off the bench. So I think that is Trossard's strength and kind of a weakness at this point. And I think he'll continue to not start at least until the cup games come around. But I will be interested to see. So apparently Jesus has been in full contact training for the week. So I actually expect him to start in the 9.
Do you really?
I do.
I don't think he will. I think there's a chance he might come off the bench. But this brings up an interesting point as well, Juz, because with Jesus back, whether it's up front or whether it's off the bench, someone has to drop off. Your homie Emile Smith Rowe might not be on the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, who's going to drop off? It's going to be one of Fabio Vieira, who it's not going to be
him,
Emile Smith Rowe, or Reece Nelson. One of the three of them have got to drop off the bench.
Look, I understand that we're getting off on a tangent a bit here, but I understand that Arteta's been pretty partial to Vieira, and that was his signing and stuff like that. But I mean, would you guys, not even thinking about what Arteta would do, would you guys ever start Vieira over Smith Rowe? Because I
wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
I think then to your last point about Arteta, he would.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's the problem.
And it's crazy though, isn't it? Like, why? But
yeah. But no,
we've been debating this.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. So someone's dropping off the bench, so it looks like it's going to be Emile Smith Rowe or it's going to be Reece Nelson. It's got to
be maybe. Oh, Reece Nelson. Yeah,
it's got to be Smith Rowe or Reece Nelson, I would imagine, because you've got a goalkeeper on there. Kivior obviously has to be on the bench. The other defender's the interesting one. I'm thinking Raul Waters is probably going to make the bench. I can't imagine him going with just one defender on the bench. right?
No, I don't think so.
So I think Raw Waters is going to come in onto the bench.
He was
Well,
training.
maybe not, mate. Because
unless Gabriel's on the bench, obviously, and starting up right back.
Party, yep, can drop into that right back, and then Kivior can play all over the left side. So maybe no Walters.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it could be no Walters, so it could be either Gabriel or Partey, I guess, in that role. But it's interesting. I like the fact that we've now got a debate on who's going to be on the bench. Like, how different is that from 18 months ago? 18 months ago, it was like, have we got 2 players we can actually bring on?
Yeah, it's just like that. Honestly.
Yeah, it's mad. So we all thinking Havertz is going to start in midfield again. I can't see him taking Havertz out of midfield. He seems like he really wants this to work, and this is the sort of game, I think, where you bed it in. We all thinking the same, Paz?
Yeah, I think he's... you've got to... what makes me think is that even if Havertz... I don't think he had a bad game. I feel his defensive qualities are really good. He's tracking back, works really hard. I guess we haven't really seen the midfield... the side of him from an attacking aspect. But I don't think Arteta, for a player that he's invested heavily in, is going to even contemplate starting him on the bench just yet, unless he's had horrendous performances, which he's not. So yeah, he starts. I think that if that's the case, then it goes back to my point over Gabriel, because that will determine whether Partey starts or not. Yeah,
I'm kind of feeling that way too. I don't know what he's going to do at that right back spot. Just would you prefer to see Partey in there at right back, or do you think the time's come to kind of go back to the old back four as it was and basically bench one of Partey or Rice?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question. I don't love it personally. I don't, but I get why Arteta does it. He wants one basically midfielder in the back line that can step in and play make and help control the ball a lot more. So when Zinchenko's not fit and now Timber's out, it makes sense. Partey's the next one. But I think once Zinchenko is back and starting, as long as he's fit, I don't think we're going to see Partey at right back anymore. I mean, it's really tough to say, but I don't think we will. I think Partey will be mostly a midfielder from here on out. Now Zinchenko's fit.
I just don't know. I'm seriously wondering if he's not going to start Zinchenko, if he's going to leave Zinchenko on the bench for one more game and start either Kivior or even try Gabriel as that third centre-back stroke left-back.
I mean, that's very possible, but I think just once Zinchenko is back, the Partey at right back experiment is not going to happen unless, Zinny's out again.
But Paz, it'd be fucking nuts though, wouldn't it? Seeing Zinchenko at left back and Partey at right back. I mean, if you're going to do it, this Fulham team just conceded 3 at home to Brighton. They gave up 10 shots in the first half alone against Everton. They don't have a lot of possession.
It was Brentford, right?
What's that? Brentford was the 3-0 defeat at home, and Everton, they beat Everton 1-0 on opening day, but they got absolutely tanked. I don't know how they got away with winning 1-0 there. Well, I do, because it was Everton, but it was nuts. So if you're going to do it, Paz, maybe this is the game you try the 2 mad fullbacks that aren't fullbacks.
Yeah, I can't see it though. I feel that would be a little bit too much. I'm really struggling with what he's going to do. I've got in my mind what would be a logical thing to do from my mind, but I'm not. What I see as logical. He's the manager. He gets paid to do his job. He's the one that's proven to be successful for us so far. So in my mind, I would think it's Ben White at right back, because I think he offers the width. He can come in a bit. He does not play the inverted role, but you'll have Zinchenko to cover that. So you do have a little bit of solidness in that respect. And, the complementary factor of Saliba and Gabriel, we all know about that. It's one of the successful partnerships we've had in years. So that's just thing. But I get this impression that maybe he's struggling to put Partey on the bench. And then, of course, he has the dilemma with Havertz of putting him on the bench. And this is why we're having this thing going on, because I just don't. The Gabriel thing is what's confusing me. I think tomorrow is really going to tell us whether or not he really sees Gabriel as someone who's going to be on the bench for the immediate future. Because you can kind of have an excuse for Palace, and you definitely have an excuse for the one before because he'd come back from an injury. But I don't know what the excuse would be this time.
Yeah, especially if Zinchenko does play. I mean, if he goes with Zinchenko and Partey in them fullback areas,
then
I don't know, man. I cannot wait to be on Twitter 59 minutes before kickoff if he does that. Can you imagine the meltdown from Arsenal Twitter?
Yeah, and then you're going to see all the Saudi links, and then the president of is in town or whatever they're going to come up with. But I think you're really going to see the rumors start to circulate if he's on the bench again, because there is no real reason for it.
Not with Zinchenko
there's an
back.
issue.
Yeah, not with Zinchenko back. There's not.
No, not with Zinchenko back.
So Joe said he thinks that Jesus might start. I can't see that. I think he might get some time off the bench. Where are you feeling with that? I mean, I definitely would like to see him, if he can, get 10 minutes off the bench with United next week, where I'm guessing we all want him to start.
I'm with you on that one. I think I can't. Firstly, Nketiah hasn't done badly, so I think there will be a thought process of it would look like we're dropping him outright, and yet that would probably go against the thought process. That would probably could have an effect on Nketiah himself, because he hasn't really done wrong except his finishing. But let's be honest, Jesus is not the best finisher in the world either. But he worked really hard. He had a hand in the goal, was the penalty. He was involved in a lot of the key moments that we have. So it wouldn't set a really good tone with him, I think, if he drops him. I think the likelihood is he comes on, gets that fitness, and then you have a week of training before the United game where he will start.
If Jesus doesn't get on, let's say he doesn't make the bench for tomorrow, because you remember last time when he come back, he was in training for a couple of weeks before he come onto the bench, funnily enough, against Fulham. If he doesn't, do you think there's a chance that he doesn't start next weekend against United? And I don't want to jump ahead and preview the next game, but I'm just wondering how important you think 10 minutes or more here is for him starting next week, because we've got the international break after too.
Well, it's kind of an interesting situation, right? Because we've only seen him, I mean, to my knowledge, I guess, let me preface, we've only seen him training full contact today. But Mikel said he's been training full contact all week. And that kind of makes me think that there is more going on here. Mikel likes to be cryptic with all his subs and
Let's be fair, he's a liar. Right? Yeah. Right? Let's not sugarcoat it. Arsene Wenger was too. These managers, they don't like to give much away. So
you're thinking he hasn't even been training for 5 days.
I don't know how much that is true. I mean, if I was Mikel Arteta and I was going to start Eddie Nketiah, I would probably want Fulham, thinking that Jesus has been training all week and he's going to start.
Hey mate, I mean that's a really fair point. Yeah, I can't argue with that. You're probably right. I think if Jesus is fit enough to start, he starts. Fit enough for 55 minutes. I think he starts. And just my personal opinion, it'd be Trossard for me in the false nine over Nketiah. No hate or anything.
You think he would do that, or are you just saying that's what you would do?
That's what I would do. I don't think he'll do that. It'll be Nketiah again if he's lying about Jesus.
Yeah, I'm fearing that way as well. I think it's going to be Nketiah. And I think you were right, though, earlier on, Just, when you said that Trossard, because he is so impactful off the bench, I think Arteta sees him as the most important player on that bench. It's like in the NFL.
The 12th man. Yeah.
Well, in the NBA, they have a 6th man of the year award, the first man off the bench, because of how important they are. And I just think that's what we're seeing here. My problem is that Arteta don't like to bring anyone off the bench.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm in a little bit of flux with this lineup, I've got to say. I'm finding it. We've gone through so long of being able to pick the starting 11 and all this, and I think we'll get there again. By the way, because Arteta's a man that does not like to change his team very often.
Yeah, he's rigid.
Yeah, so I do think once we start getting to the end of September, start of October, we are going to see what the starting lineup is, and we will get back to the point where we can pretty much pick it every week, but we're not there right now. Because remember, last year we went into the season with a bit of a makeshift back four, right? Because Tommy was out. That's why Ben White moved over at right back and stuff. And that pretty quickly became the back four, and it didn't matter when anyone was out. And So there is part of me that thinks this party at right back thing, there might be something to it, just because I don't know which direction he's going to take it in. But I think we can say so far it hasn't really worked, right, Juz? Like we've not hit our stride yet. There's not been any fluidity.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a good idea in principle in the absence of Zinchenko, even though I hate to see weak hamstring party sprinting up and down that flank in a right back role. Maybe that's.
But to be fair, he hasn't been doing that though, has he?
He's not been doing it that much. Yeah. But I do still kind of hate it. I think at this point we should just accept he's probably only going to play 28 games this season. In kind of saving him. But I don't think the strategy is poor in the absence of Zinchenko. But I do think our reliance on Zinchenko is a little concerning.
But I mean, we saw this coming, though. I said to you the minute that we basically brought in Rice, who was clearly always going to play the six, I thought Zinchenko became the most important player in this team because he's our way out from the back without Partey there. I think that's going to be the case. Just at the minute, we've flipped it, put Partey at right back to get out.
Well, I mean, in the issue is, right, we solved the problem with Jurrien Timber, and now he's out for the season. So because Jurrien Timber could do mostly what any of those guys could do as a second choice. And now he's out for the season, and we are kind of fucked. I mean, we're having to do things like Partey at right back. And, that's how I see it. I think that the club saw the reliance on Zinchenko coming, dealt with it with the Timber signing, and now are kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the case even if the plan was Timber at right back, right? Because he could have gone right back and Kiwior could have gone left back and boom, you've got the same thing. But instead, this makeshift thing has been, we think it's makeshift, has been what's ended up happening.
Yeah.
How badly do we need Havertz to get some sort of attacking return, whether it's a couple of assists, whether it's a goal? I really feel like he needs something to really, really push him on.
I think we talked about this before. I do feel a goal or, like you said, an assist or a pre-assist, an assist before the assist, something where he's involved.
Any attacking return.
Yeah, even if it's not tangible points in fantasy football, at least something where we can see that he's been involved in some entity in an attacking, in a goal or something. I have to admit, I looked at it I've looked at it a lot more from an attacking perspective, but actually looking back, he does offer a lot of qualities defensively and aerially as well. He did really, from an aerial side, he's really brought us a different dimension. But when we didn't pay £60 million just for that, we played like, as you see with Xhaka, there was a lot more with Xhaka's game than the defensive side of it. In fact, we saw a lot of runs in the box. We saw assists. We saw goals last season. I think it's really important that he gets some contribution. I think it will ease it. It will ease the pressure on him. And I think after that, you'll see things maybe just die down a little bit in terms of the pressure that's out there. But I would say, yeah. And games like Fulham at home, that's where you want to see it.
Are you a bit worried that we're using it too much, the going long tactic? Because I've got to be honest, I think we're doing it too much, this long ball over the top. I think it's a safety blanket that we're going to, and maybe it's intentional. Maybe it's, because we haven't really done it that much before in this way. Maybe it's, let's over egg it to begin with, so we get used to doing it before we kind of reel it back in. But do you feel that we're doing it a little bit too often?
Perhaps. I feel probably the Palace game we did it more. It could have something to do with the fact that we were away from home as well. But it's difficult yet to judge it because it's only 2 games. I think tomorrow will be a real indicator of how much we intend to use it, because we're playing a team that really we should be beating. We should be taking the game to. So it'll be, I think, a few more games and I can make more of an informed opinion on that. I haven't seen it too bad though, but I do hope it's not something that we intend to apply too much and too often, because then it will make us a little bit too one-dimensional, and our football is not based on that anyway.
Doesn't this kind of doesn't this kind of justify more, at least not completely, the Raya signing though? Don't you think maybe that was a factor in building this strategy around Havertz going long? Because that was not my initial thought, but that was one of my first thoughts when I saw the links, and I think that makes a lot more sense. And I think we're respectfully giving Ramsdale, more time because he's not done anything to lose his spot. But if we're having a long ball strategy where Havertz plays in that left attacking mid but runs far post almost every forward play in the air, it makes a lot of sense to me.
I think one of the things with that though is that one of the negative traits that Ramsdale has got is that he tends to go long when the game gets a bit edgy, right? Have you noticed that as soon as the pressure ratchets up a bit, all of a sudden Ramsdale goes long. And I don't think that helps us doing that. I actually think that's his worst trait. I don't know why you would encourage that.
But Ramsdale is Raya is statistically better at long balls.
Which is fine, but Kai Havertz the other night at Crystal Palace, I think he won, was it 6 of 8 or 4 of 6 aerial duels? How many times did we pick up the second ball after he won it? Yeah, none. So this is a strategy that you can whack the ball up to Kai Havertz's head. We don't get the knockdowns. So I'm just failing to see where this strategy is any good.
To be fair, I mean, I think one of the failing points is that you have your left attacking mid leaving midfield and going up top.
You mean you have the one player who you think would get on the end of the flick-ons doing the flick-on?
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I don't know. I think this is, honestly, I don't like it. I don't like this. And it clearly is a strategy. And I don't like it. I've got no problem with him running to the back post and Saka, and Saka's got to change his game a little bit to start clipping balls into the back post. But I've got no problem with trying with doing that a few times a game. But I do have a problem with this whacking it long from the goalkeeper, because I don't know. I just don't think it benefits us. I just don't think we're the sort of side that are going to benefit from that.
As our main strategy, I think it would be incredibly poor. But as I don't know, every 3 and 4, well, that would probably be too much too. Maybe every every 8th time, it wouldn't be that bad of a change-up strategy. And I think that's kind of what we're going for here. But it looks like in these early days that we're going for it a lot more. And I hope we do tone it down and just use it as more of an alternative than we're doing right now.
Yeah, I agree, because I think we're doing it more than 50% of the time at the minute. Yeah. We're barely playing out from the back, and I don't know. I don't see that as a viable long-term strategy. I mean, eventually, all the opposition are going to do is, at the minute, Havertz is going into them space, Eddie's dropping short, and I think defenders are getting a little bit confused by it. They ain't going to last too long. They get tape on it, and all of a sudden, they're 6'4" centre half, who's 3 times the weight of Havertz. He's just going to come out and win the ball. So, and I mean, maybe that's what they're going for. Arteta loves a big boot into the corner to win a throw on at the start of the game. So yeah. I don't know. It baffles me a little bit.
The funny thing is, it's innovative because it's regressive. I mean, it's damn near Stoke ball. He's just a more
Brentford ball. It's
Yeah,
Brentford ball. Is what it is, and we've just signed Brentford's goalkeeper, and it is
100%.
Brentford ball. It's exactly what they do.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't like it. It's not for me, and I'm hoping we get away from it. But
No.
Pants, go on, Jess.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was just going to say, I agree with you 100%. I don't like it either, but I think it is brilliant as like kind of a plan C. Do you know what I mean? And we've never had that option before under Arteta. I mean, because Lacazette, Aubameyang, they were never going to do it. But having that option now, I think, is valuable. We've just got to make sure we like kind of put it in our pocket and only use it when necessary. And right now, we're overblowing the whole thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Paz, I was going to say Fulham have looked pretty toothless up front as well. They did get that goal against Everton, but other than that, they haven't offered much. Are we finally going to get a clean sheet at home?
I would absolutely think so, because Mitrovic is obviously off. They don't really have an attacking threat. I think they're Pereira, I think, or who's up front.
They've got Jimenez up front.
Jimenez. We can't hit the bottom door recently, can he? That guy.
He's not really been the same ever since the
injury.
Goal,
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. You'd hope so. If it's a game where we should be having 90% possession.
It's gonna. You would think that we're gonna have a lot. The only thing I'll say in Fulham's defence, and you can't defend the Everton game. Obviously, they were basically just, there were shots coming in from everywhere. Just none of them went in. But at Brentford, they were only one down when the ludicrous penalty and Tim Ream sending off happened. But of course, this week as well. Now they're going to be without Tim Ream.
Without him.
I was going to say that too. Yeah,
but Palhinha might come in. He was carrying a knock, and obviously there's been there's been a lot of rumours about him leaving West Ham, and then Liverpool were linked, and a move to Saudi has been linked because I heard Justin was moving to Saudi. There's just everyone's been linked with Saudi at some point. So, I mean, we've got to really put them to the sword, right, Pass? We have to put them to the sword this week.
I don't think we have an excuse if we don't. At least a good performance. If it's a 2-0 victory, I'll take it. But just put in a good performance and a clean sheet. I think, this is the type of game. This is a weaker Fulham team. It's probably one of the contenders to go down. We're at home. We struggled against them last season, not away, but at home, because we got that last-minute winner when Richard Keys, went apeshit. So you have to think it's ours now to win and win well, and put us in good stead for the United game next week.
Yeah, Judge, you confident going in here?
I am, Gaff. I am. I think I have my doubts about putting them to the sword, even though that's 100% what I want. That's just never really been. I don't want to say it's Arteta instructed, but it never seems to be RMO since he took over. Mm-hmm. But man, I'd love to put 5 or 6 past him, and I think we're capable of it. But I expect just maybe a tidy 3-0, probably same as Brentford. I think we'll take our foot off the gas again, as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah, I would really like us to go all out here, but it's just, you're right. It's just not what we do. We just get a couple up and then stop. I mean, hopefully at least we get a couple up. I don't want to sound like we're taking them for granted, because I mean, we dropped points last year at home at Southampton. We dropped points at West Ham. We basically who else did we lose to? We got battered by relegation contenders, basically, or beaten. So it was, I don't know. These are the sort of games that can give you a bit of trouble.
And I think Marco Silva's kind of an interesting manager, because I know he's kind of been memed a bit, but he can set up a pretty decent attack, like a pretty decent play style, but they're always going to be vulnerable in defense, I think. And yeah, we really should be able to slice through them. I don't expect us doing much unless, the subs that come on, maybe, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Nelson, that just want to prove themselves.
So you're expecting a lot of goals after the 84th minute.
well, that's the truth, isn't it? Yeah.
All right, let's do the answer to the Who Am I game. That's because it's the end of the preview. So I'll just go through it again. I started my career at Southampton. I moved to Arsenal, for whom I played 74 games. I went on loan to Middlesbrough, then on loan again to Fulham, where I appeared 31 times before I moved permanently to Aston Villa. Who am I? Judge, you got an answer for me?
Calum Chambers.
And Paz, what you got?
Yeah, Callum Chambers.
Yeah, correct. Fulham's Player of the year they got relegated. He should have stayed with them and gone and played in the Championship.
He should have.
It would have been more his level.
I forgot he's at Villa, actually. He's not really...
I did too.
Aston Villa forgot he was at Villa too.
Yeah.
He did score a really good goal for them last season, actually.
Did we put him... Did he go on a free?
Yeah, he went on a free.
Yeah, he went on a free.
Yeah, remember we got rid of him. We got rid of him on a free in January while we were having an injury crisis, and we were like, "Nah, just go." But he's another one who just hung around 6 years too long.
I actually always liked him, to be honest. I thought he was serviceable, but sometimes he would have just an absolute mare, and
I thought he was one of the worst players I've seen. I do know. I think he was a League Two player that somehow nicked a career at the top level. He was slower than me.
There are players just that you're going to realise that.
I know.
Is very non-negotiable on, right? Look. And once his mind has gone to that side, it's very difficult to change him. Okay,
you remember Swansea away. We all remember Swansea away, right? Get me a single
one
performance.
That one game.
Find me one worse than that.
Okay, honestly,
Galachi, one of his games.
Galachi at Fulham's the only one that comes close.
I think this podcast should push a movement to get Kieran Tierney a statue outside the Emirates.
Yeah, we can loan it somewhere.
I've seen, we'll talk about in the next pub. I've seen you've been having a few spats with Kieran Tierney fans, Gav.
I'm baffled by this. I don't know if you saw the one.
I am with you, by the way.
Did you see the one where a guy put that he was the best traditional left back in Arsenal's history after Ashley Cole and Nigel Winterburn?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That was
disrespect to Gail.
It is really interesting, the hysteria behind him. I think it's more the person than the player.
We'll get on to that.
We should discuss that.
We should actually discuss that. We will. We'll get onto that in the second half. So, all right, boys. We'll see you after the break.
Sounds good.
Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz, and Juz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back to the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Lads, since we teased it before the break, let's start with Kieran Tierney. And there's a couple of myths that I want to dispel right before we start on this. First off, there's a lot of this, Kieran Tierney is going because we've changed to an inverted left back and this and that. Bullshit. That's not what it is. The system hasn't moved beyond Kieran Tierney. We've moved beyond Kieran Tierney as a club. The problem for Kieran Tierney isn't that he can't come inside, it's that he smacks the ball out of play every time he's under a little bit of pressure. That is why Mikel Arteta doesn't like Kieran Tierney. It's nothing to do with an inverted left back, because you've seen it. He's played Tommy Asso at left back, playing as a fullback, not even more of a wing back style. The second thing is there's a myth that I hate Kieran Tierney. I do not hate Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney was a very good left back when we were an 8th place side, right? Just, we talked about this the other week. When we were 8th, it's because we had a squad that deserved to be 8th. We had a lot of players that weren't 8th place players. Kieran Tierney is an 8th place left back, which is fine. It's a good place to be. It's one of the top, 15 left backs in the Premier League. It's not a bad place to be. It's still a good player. But he's not any more than that. And I do find it utterly bizarre, the amount of people that will not accept what their eyes tell them. Paz, what have you got for me?
Okay, I do see more of what you say than I did before. I'm not going to lie. I do feel there is, because I've also made comments sometimes on certain Arsenal forum or chat forums relating to different podcasts, and I've got chastised for saying anything negative about Kieran Tierney. And I feel there is a certain love for him by the fan base, which is maybe to do with, there's amalgamation of things. There are, obviously that West Brom game everyone remembers, where he's got that, it's that cavalier kind of, like you said, I know he pumps the ball out of play, but he's a very direct left back. He's quite dynamic. And also there's a personality in him, which is a very committed player, very, he's not never going to intend to let you down, right? But I do see that there is a certain valuation that Arsenal fans put on him that has just been totally debunked by the fact that he's going on loan to Real Sociedad. Because if he was the valuation that people seem to think he is, he would have gone for a sell, because we all know Arsenal were willing to sell him. So I think there is a kind of people get caught up in the personality of Kieran Tierney and what they like about certain traits of his than actually the full quality itself. So I do see what you're saying. I think he is slightly, his ability maybe is not up to what the top left backs you would expect of the top left backs, whether they're inverted or not. Jurrien Timber is a prime example, because he's come in and he's not exactly inverted, but like you said, he's got a certain quality on the ball, a certain calmness on the ball, knows how to zip it, and will never lump it out of play until it's absolutely necessary. So I think, I agree with those points you've said.
Justin?
I think there's been a real issue with Kieran Tierney in falling in love with the man more than the player. The second he brought his gear to the training pitch in a Tesco bag, I think it was over for all of us. I don't know.
The short sleeves in the snow as well.
Short sleeves in the snow, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I think the fan base fell in love with this guy that was no nonsense.
Let's be fair. I will say this now: he was one of our best players when we were shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was going to bring that point up too. Yeah, but I think the fan base did fall in love with the man a little more than the player in this regard, just because he had a couple standout highlights in a time when we were weak. We were kind of trash, to be honest. That being said, I think Tierney is a solid, serviceable player that the club has outgrown. I think he could still play. Yeah, he could play for Spurs. Don't tell me he couldn't. Who do they have at left back? Is it still Ben
Davies? I think that's about the level, right? If you look at
Spurs is a top six side, mate.
No,
that's not that bad.
No, they're not. You've got Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, Newcastle, right? And Manchester City, right? Those five are clear of everybody right now, right? Then you've got Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, all better than Spurs. Actually, I don't think Chelsea are, but Brentford and Brighton certainly are better than Spurs. They're an 8th place team. What did I say to you before?
Mate, are you letting your bias get to you though? I don't think I think Spurs are going to be
above Brighton. You've just seen 2 weeks of Brighton. You think Spurs are finishing above that?
They played the two of some of the 2 weakest teams in the league. Pause. What do you think?
Over Brighton and Spurs? I'd say Brighton has been more impressive. I know that you're right. They played weak.
They finished above them last year.
But I think Brighton have been so impressive. I mean, Man United played Wolves at home and they were appalling. Brighton took them up, tore them apart. I think they're attacking. They're a more established team, Brian, because remember, Ange has just come in and he's got to basically change the whole ethos of that team with probably less of a squad because you've not got Kane now. So I would probably still put Brighton though, just to be honest, and I'd probably put Villa as well. I just feel that they have more of an established team going on there than Spurs. But to your point,
but I think
top
you're
six
right,
or
Josh.
not, he could be in Spurs' team. Absolutely.
But I think that is his level.
Mm.
And I don't think that's an insult.
Yeah, I okay, that's fair, Gaff. Go ahead.
No, go on, carry on. It was you were in. I interrupted you.
No, mate. That's fine. I understand what you're saying. I think he could play for Spurs. You think that's his level. I just think Spurs are going to place higher than other fans, other Gooners especially, think they're going to.
Well, do it this way. Do it this way, then, right? Tierney or Zinchenko, you're taking Zinchenko. Tierney and whoever Man City play left back, you're taking them. Robertson or Tierney, you're taking Robertson. Luke Shaw or Tierney, you're taking Luke Shaw.
Except Luke Shaw's always injured.
Well, Dan Burn or Tierney, well, Newcastle just told you what you thought. They paid 35 million for Chelsea's reserve left back when they could have had Tierney. So they've told you what they thought. Estupinian or Tierney, you're taking Estupinian. So
I'm not taking Estupinian.
You're not?
No, you wouldn't. He's superb though, Justin.
I would take him.
I've not seen enough, to be fair, but I mean, you guys are also only looking at direct talent. I'm also looking at I'm doing that thing that Arsenal fans are doing that I criticized them of at the beginning of this message. But he does have grit and leadership that he brings more than right.
I 100% agree, Justin. I like what he brought to us. I was a big fan of him. Still, I'm slightly a fan of him. I'm not at all. I think the issue is that maybe he's just not really comfortable with Arteta anyway. Maybe his approach to the system, maybe his way of managing, he's not really comfortable with that as well, because we're all talking about how he fits in Arteta's system, but also maybe himself. He's like, it's just not working for me, the way that this manager is, the way he sets up. I don't know, but I don't think he's a bad left back. I would not go as far as to say that. I would think that in our particular squad, he is back of the list, though. He's behind a Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
He's obviously behind a Timber.
But it's because of the style of play, right? It's not because of his quality. And I'm not over here like standing up. I like Tierney. I rate him. But I agree. He's the furthest left back from starting right now. I agree 100%.
But I think if he was better at set pieces, we'd have more offers in for him. Because if you think about it, there's not much difference in him and Robertson. Robertson is also a very direct left back, but he's good at he's good at set pieces. He's good at corners. He's a bit more productive in the assist bracket as well. So I think if he can improve on that, if that was more of his game, if he had a bit more of that to him, I think he would have been snapped up.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point, boss. Yeah, I do think Robertson is better in the final third, like just decision making,
I just don't think you see Robertson turn and smash the ball into Rosé. I just don't think you see it.
Well, that's decision making, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course it is. But that's what I'm saying. You just don't see it. You do not see Robertson turn around and do that. I don't think you can play for a club that wants to be a Premier League club that wants to be in them Champions League spots. I don't think you can play for that if your first reaction under pressure is to smash the ball into the stands.
I mean, Robertson has had a lot of cuntish tackles as well, where Tierney tends to be more controlled defensively.
Robertson's an arsehole.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt about it.
Those are two sides of the game, mate.
Yeah, but he's an arsehole. I know what Andy Robertson is. I mean, they had him and
I back
him
Tierney.
and Mane down one side. Like, that is an evil left flank.
I'd back Tierney defensively over Robinson defensively straight. And I don't even care about stats because, there's obviously, I mean, he has fucking Virgil van Dijk next to him, Fabinho in front of him. I think Tierney straight up is the better.
I'm just surprised like he's gone on loan to Real Sociedad. I'm surprised West Ham's not in there, or
I'm shocked that we did. I mean, I never thought we were going to get
just odd.
30 or 35 million for him. I thought that was pie in the sky stuff. But
but even alone in the Premier League,
I thought we'd have got 20 million for him. Him, Tavares, and Holding. I am shocked we cannot get a fee for.
Me too.
And Holding, we only bought for a few million anyway.
Yeah, it's
we?
like a couple of million, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
So
like
he's been here
1.7
for 140 years.
yeah.
So,
so how about are we ready to move off from?
Well,
Tierney?
I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on the loan itself. I mean, it seems like we've got some sort of loan fee. I don't know how much it is.
I mean, honestly, as long as they're paying his wages,
to me, it's a good loan. Jazz, do you think it's a good loan for us?
Yeah, I mean, I do. As long as any club pays 100% of their wages for a loan player, and he has an opportunity to shine, even he's in the Champions League. Yes, I'm all
he's
about
under
it.
Contract till 2026, so we haven't got to worry about that. We've still got the value coming back next summer. Paz, do you think this is a good loan deal?
I think for anyone who doesn't think it's a good loan, who doesn't understand how it works, we've just had a player. Yes, he is younger, but is now. We'll talk about him later. But he's on the verge of going for the highest we've sold for any player. And he just went on loan to France. So if he goes on loan to Spain, plays regularly, is seen in the Champions League, we still have 2 years probably left on his contract next year, then we should be able to get a fee for him. And that is a win-win, isn't it? Because you get him, you get his wage covered, you get some form of fee for the loan, and then you sell him for hopefully some form of profit, if anything, just something next year, as opposed to him just sitting on the bench and hardly ever playing.
Yeah, agreed. Jazz, anything to close it out?
No, I think just something to laugh at the fact that he's going to San Sebastian in Spain, when we've always laughed at the fact that he's worn short sleeves in London, the whole time. I find that kind of ironic. I never would have expected him to go to Spain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Apparently he wanted to move, though. I mean, I've got to be honest, fair play to him for it, because I would have done the same thing. I would love to go and play for a year in Spain if I was him.
Oh, same. No doubt. But I just think it's funny because, his whole get up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be, but the Scots do love package holidays to Spain. So
yeah, did you guys listen to Arscast today, where they said that San Sebastian was basically the Scotland of Spain?
Okay, how'd they work that? They deep fried pizzas?
Just listen, it's hilarious.
I'll have to have a listen to it, because I haven't heard it. So
yeah, no, it's great. But
I'll
yeah,
listen to it.
All right, go ahead.
Paz, so you brought up following Balogun and the move to Monaco. I think the latest I heard is that it was going to be 40 million euros with a substantial sell-on fee. Again, it's good money for a player that a year ago we wouldn't have got 4 million for.
Okay, so there's two things to this. There's one, it's excellent in the sense that, like you said, last year we wouldn't have got much for him. It was a successful loan. We obviously chose the right team for him to play for, and we've got a sell on from that. I think the second part to it is the highest transfer that we've sold a player for, which is an achievement in one sense, but it also highlights that really we've been poor in what we've been selling in the market over the year. So hopefully this is a sign that things will improve for the future, and we can get more for certain fringe players or players within the squad. But I think it's perfect for me personally. Playing in France, fantastic. We don't see him in the Premier League. He's not with a rival team. We get a pretty good sum for him. And if he does move on, which is very possible if he really lights up the French league, then we'll get something back for that.
And Juz, this is exactly how you use the loan market, right? This is the best loan we have ever made.
Excuse me. Yes, mate. I'm really excited about this transfer. I think it's the perfect transfer. 40 million euros for, let's be honest, he's a one-season wonder right now in the French league. Getting that much, I mean, our record sale and getting a massive sell-on clause, according to Ornstein. I hope that's true. I think this is a brilliant sale, to be honest. I have no problem with it, and I hope he succeeds. I do. I hope he crushes it so we get like 30 million from a sell-on fee. I do at this point. The striker market is looking barer and barer. to have a guy that netted 22 goals last season in league. Oh, good, yeah.
League.
That's why I just said the French league. I didn't even want to go down that route.
It's massive though. It's massive, and I believe in Balogun. I think he's going to do really well, and I think he's going to net us a pretty large sell-on fee later on. I do lament the fact that the club didn't really even give him a shot, because I would have liked to have seen what he could do for us, but I don't really think he's the right fit.
Paz, are you surprised that Monaco have almost had a free run at this? I mean, I know we've had some stories that Chelsea were interested in talking to his people and blah, blah, blah. But Monaco seem to have had a pretty free run at this. And when you think about some of the strikers that have moved and some clubs that are desperate for forwards, you would have thought that someone would have at least asked a question.
My opinion is it's probably, I could be wrong, but it probably is something to do with the fact that he was playing in the French league. So, the ones that have moved on, and if I get this wrong, you'll correct me, but I can't think of a big money transfer striker that's from the French league that's coming to the Premier League. So maybe elsewhere in Inter Milan, I know they were interested, but we all know the Italian teams are such cheapskates when it comes to their offers. It makes sense because Monaco do have money. He was prolific last year in the French league, so there's obviously that part which resonates with them because they know that he can perform in that league. I think the ones that were probably interested from the Premier League, according to rumours, Arsenal were quoting a lot higher and being a lot more resolute with the price for him. So it's not a major surprise. I thought maybe more clubs would be in for him, but it's not a major surprise that it is a French club that have come out and paid the money.
Juz, do you think it's right that we would have been asking for more money from a Premier League club? Because I do think it's right. I think this is exactly how you have to play. If Monaco are paying 40 million, I would want 70 from Chelsea.
Oh, Gav, absolutely. My headcanon is Chelsea were like, hey, how much do you want for Balogun? And Arsenal were just like, fuck off. That's what I like to believe. I think that's 100% right. There's no reason to strengthen rivals. I'd much rather sell to Monaco even for a lower fee, especially because we're getting these clauses. So, I mean, Chelsea can rightly get fucked.
And also, mate, there's more chance of that sell-on clause being activated at Monaco, right? Because if he goes to Monaco and he smashes it, you aren't going to get top clubs wanting to buy him. Whereas if he goes to Chelsea and smashes it, they're just going to give him a 93+1 contract.
I think Justin's dog agrees.
Go ahead, pause.
Or was that the cat?
I hope that was the cat.
I think what you can see, because the fee was not that much, considering that he's 22? I think, is he 22, 23? 22. Right. So if he does incredibly well in the French league, let's say next season, and perhaps the season after, you're hitting 24, you can see a Premier League club coming in 60, maybe 70. And still that being a reasonable fee for a Premier League club for a striker. So you're spot on, because it's absolutely more likely that way than it going straight to a Premier League club for that same price. Because if it's Chelsea or a big club, we're not getting that fee. They're going to put him on the long-term contract, and he'll be on an extremely high wage, so it'll be hard for them to sell him on for anything higher than it is.
And I feel like a big portion of this is the striker market. It's insane. United paying what they paid for Højlund, is insane. And I just feel like if Balogun even has a decent season next season, he's gonna crush it in the transfer market.
Like I say, I really hope he does, because it would be. I mean, it'd be good for us, but it would also be good for him. And we live in now, Pass. I would like to see the US do well, and I know obviously Justin's got skin in the game with the US, so I would like to see the US number 9.
And I've no problem with him. I mean, I know there's Arsenal fans that saying that he had an attitude problem. He might have had a bit, but I think he's just a player that's ambitious. I kind of admire players that, I've said this before, whether it's my club or another club, but that they want to play, that they want to be a regular. They don't want to just sit there. And I think I admire that he feels, hey, I've come off being one of the top goal scorers in the French league. I think I should be rewarded by regular football. And if that's not here, then make me move elsewhere. I feel good luck to the guy.
And he's 22, not 18.
Yeah.
He's at the age where he needs to be leading the line somewhere. So
Yeah.
I don't blame him at all. There's no hard feelings at all from my point of view for either of this. I think this is a good deal for the club. I think it's a good deal for Balogun. I think it's one of them where it's just a win-win all round.
100%.
Yeah, agreed.
I haven't heard anything else about any more outs. Have any of you heard anything about any more outs? I've literally heard nothing at all.
Well, we have a couple kids, right? Tyrese, John Jules.
Yeah.
And,
go for it.
But I don't know if,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a loan to Derby, right?
It's just a loan to Derby.
I meant more about, I don't know, what are we going to call them? So with Tierney and Balogun left, it's 5. We can't
the
the
Expendables. The Expendables.
Not the famous 5, but the fucked off 5. I don't know, whatever it is. That's who I was talking about. I was talking about the other 5 members of the unwanted squad.
Do you think there's one of them that we're going to get a fee for?
No, I don't. I think they're all going to go on loan next week.
Let's name them real quick. What do you guys think it is?
All right,
Holding.
so Tavares, I think he's going to go on loan. Holding, I think he's going to go on loan. Sambi, I think he's going to go on loan. Cedric, I think he's going to leave with a big bag of cash the day after the Saudi transfer window ends. Pepe, I think he's going to leave with a big bag of cash the day after the Saudi window ends. Just
Holding is the only one that I'm kind of holding out for a fee.
I think him as well.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, to be fair, he deserves it. If I was a mid-table Premier League club, I would absolutely have been chasing Kieran Tierney and Sambi Lokonga. If I was a lower half of the table club, I would absolutely have been chasing Rob Holding. Those are the ones that I don't get.
Mate, I don't know. You guys tell me if this is offensive, but I mean, he's basically Connor Cody.
I think he's better than Connor Cody. But
that's what I'm saying.
That's
like,
right. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he'll get a deadline day fee, and it'll be up to the club to accept.
Maybe Pepe with some menial fee from Saudi Arabia is possible.
Yeah, that's back in, right? Yeah,
that's your hope, right? With Pepe, that is literally the only hope with Pepe is Saudi. Because if it's not Saudi, he's not going to Turkey. He's got the best part of £7 million owed to him. I don't blame him for taking the money pass. We've had this conversation already today. When players sign a contract, I don't blame them for wanting to be paid what's left of the contract. So I've got no problem with Pepe insisting on the bag, especially when he's watched Kolasinac, Ozil, Mustafi, Aubameyang all get paid to leave. Why the hell would he not?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Can I say this? I actually hope we just loan Sambi Lokonga. I hope we don't sell him. I know, mate. But I still have faith in the player, and I think his confidence is just like ground level right now. I think if he could get with someone like Vincent Kompany at Burnley, I think he would only raise his value, even if he's never going to make it here. I don't expect him to make it at Arsenal. I think that's pretty much done. But he could raise his level to a point to be probably another 35 million transfer fee, I think, if he has a good loan.
My worry is he goes somewhere and doesn't play. That's my worry with it, right? Like, he's been linked to Brighton. My worry is he goes to Brighton and he just don't get any game time. And then what you've got, it's another year of his contract gone, and you're getting back a player that's worth less than when you gave him out.
I think with Brighton especially, they've got a McAllister and Caicedo hole, so he could kind of find his room between that 6 and 8. But yeah,
But
I
this is
don't
the
know.
risk you take, though, Judge, right? This is the risk you take by loaning them out. Like, we could have loaned Balogun to Ream, and they might have had a young player coming through their youth team that scored a couple of goals, and then Balogun not got any game time. So this is the risk that you're always going to take when you're doing these loans.
Yeah. Loans are always risk, of course. Yep. But I mean, I'd love to loan him to Brighton, even if he doesn't play, 34 games or whatever. I mean, I think it'd still be a good atmosphere for him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I personally, if we could get our money back on him, I would absolutely take that. And I know, Paz, you would as well, right?
Yeah. I probably have him in lesser esteem than you and Justin, but I would. But if there is no other option, it's got to be a loan.
To be clear, if we could get our money back, like break even or profit, I'd take it too. I wouldn't take a loss on him yet. I think a loan could raise his value.
I can see that because he's younger. But I think this would be the last chance saloon loan wise. I don't think
it has to be. I mean, his contract's going to be running down, so it has to be. But that's why this loan is so important, because I think you can't have a situation where he doesn't play, another year ticks off.
That's why Burnley sounded interesting, because of the company links. You see,
Company said he was going to be the next.
Might be a bit more difficult. Sorry.
Company said he was going to be the next Yaya Toure.
Yeah.
He did. I mean, he said that. Yeah.
Well, then why doesn't he bloody buy him then?
20 million's a bargain for
exactly. That's a bargain for a Yaya Toure wannabe.
Yeah, I know. So, what do you guys think about the left back?
Tavares?
Yep, Tavares.
I think he's going to end up going on loan somewhere, and this is another one that worries me, to be honest with you, because it seems like Villa are the team that are in for him on loan, and Villa already have a first choice left back in Moreno, and I heard they wanted him as a backup. I mean, I don't know. I just don't see the sense in loaning him somewhere to be a backup.
I don't either, to be honest, Gaff. I think he needs to go to a team that plays a 3 at the back, like a wing back system. He's never gonna do great in like a traditional like left back, right back role wherever they put him. He's got to be a wing back, and I agree. We shouldn't send him anywhere where he's going to be a backup.
You want to hear something mad though? I'd rather have him backing up Saka than I would Pepe.
Who's that? Sorry,
I would rather have Tavares as Saka's backup than Pepe. I would be so interested to see Tavares on that right wing cutting in on that left foot.
I would too. I think his off the ball work is a lot stronger than Pepe's, and I think he fits into Arteta's system more as a winger than he does as a fullback. Now, not that he totally fits, but that he fits more. I think he'd be
more switched on defensively than Pepe as well, wouldn't he?
It'd be like who was that striker? You guys know the one, the chaos striker. We had 29. Scored 4 goals in that Emirates Cup game. What's that?
Oh, Sonogo? You talking about Julio
Baptista?
Sonogo.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he could be a Yaya type scenario for us to just introduce chaos into a.
Well, just come on, score 4 goals in the Emirates Cup, and then we never see him again.
You got it.
Oh wait, perfect. So just to touch on something else away from the transfers, because until they happen, there's really not a lot to say. Mike Dean, did you all see this?
Man, we're gonna be. How much time we got?
We got about 7.5.
Was it on a podcast with Simon Jordan or something? Wasn't it?
He was, yeah, and he was talking about the hair pull last year, the Tottenham and Chelsea one, and he said, it's one of them. If I had my time again, what would I do? I'd send Anthony to the screen. I said to Anthony afterwards, I just didn't want to send you to the screen after what's gone on in that game. I didn't want to send him up because he's a mate as well as a referee. And I didn't want to send him up because I didn't want him to get any more grief than he already had. Mike Dean is corrupt. And I don't care. Say what you want. Mike Dean is corrupt. That game at Old Trafford will never, ever leave me. He's corrupt. There's no doubt about it. And PGMOL's statement, did you see their statement? They came out and said, any suggestion that, mate, this ain't a suggestion. This is one of your employees on a public podcast telling you what he did. This isn't a suggestion.
It really, you know, a lot of the time we've said things that could be perceived as quite hyperbolic when we talk about there is a corruption going on, or there's a little boys network and all of these things, and people could just turn around and say, yeah, you're just bitter because your team lost and it was a bad decision. But what he said, and I can't believe the front of the guy to openly come out and say, because he's a mate and because of the way the game was going, he did not want to rule on a decision that was actually right in your face, the correct decision, to go and tell him to refer him to the monitor and make the correct decision, which would have been that goal would not have stood because he's a mate. That has got to be one of the most ridiculous and stupid comments one can make. But it also kind of backs up everything we've been thinking about these referees, that they are all in it together. They're all a little network. There's no initiative taken with decisions. It's all, and that's why sometimes I know you're not, I don't know actually, Gab, I know you're not a big fan of VAR, but I've always been an advocate for miking them up, because why can't we hear what these fuckers say? But that's the reason we can't hear what they say, because that's what they're thinking about him being a mate and not wanting to put him in the lion's den and all this bullshit. It's appalling. And it just highlights everything we've been saying about how shit the referees are in the Premier League.
And Juz, it's still corrupt, right? It might not be biased. He didn't do it because it was this team or that team, but regardless, it is still corrupt. Whether it's just because it suits one team or there's a payment here or there, it doesn't matter. It is still corrupt.
100%. And I would argue it still is biased because he did it for his mate.
Yeah, just not towards one of the teams.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think this is... I mean, it's destructive to the whole organization, right? Because, I mean, he openly admitted that he's biased towards calling a call because his mate had kind of a rough game already. And I can't even understand why he would openly admit this on a podcast just, a week later. This is shocking stuff. I think it cuts under everything the PGMOL is trying to do. I think it undercuts the entire organization for one of their most experienced refs to admit that they're biased towards their friends. I mean, this is an absolute nightmare, and I'm really curious to see the fallout of it, but maybe I'm just optimistic and hoping for change.
It's just one more example of why PGMOL needs to go. Like, it should not exist. I don't mind the referees having a union, but they shouldn't have this sort of power. The Premier League needs to be the ones that are in control of these officials. They have to be the ones that are in control of these officials. Perhaps what excuse is there at this point to have PGMOL running this racket?
Well, there is no excuse. There is no excuse. Yeah. The problem you have now, Gav, is that you're just going to heighten the conversation, because now every mistake that's made or everything that's not looked at by VAR, Onana the other day, Well,
it's nearly every game this season, Pass.
Nearly every game
has had something in it. I mean, just look at us on Monday night with Tommy Asu getting sent off and Ayew not getting sent off.
Yeah. I get the Tommy Asu one. They couldn't refer him to VAR anyway because it was
they couldn't refer him to VAR.
They couldn't refer him to VAR, but what the issue is the non-interference. The Onana one we were talking was just in your face. Absolutely
Fulham last week. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the penalty award and the second yellow and red for Tim Ream, but it was insane. It was
I think that's
lads.
True.
I'm sure just all the refs were mates. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but he just probably didn't want his mate to feel bad.
What was what was that? So it's Dean. What was the Old Trafford one? Was that the Wenger to the stands one, or are you talking about Martinelli? I'm
talking about it was the 49 game unbeaten one. That was Dean, wasn't it?
No, it was Riley.
Oh, was that Riley? No, that was Riley.
Riley.
It was
Yes.
Riley. It was another wanker as well. But
Yeah.
Dean's always had a very self-righteous attitude, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of ex-players talk about him as an absolute prat. Like he's a real pompous, arrogant cunt.
He's a narcissist, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, to be honest, that interview highlights that, doesn't it? That
You couldn't wait to get on there in front of people.
Yeah. And just basically saying, throw all your fellow professional referees under the bus and just say, I did it for a mate. He's a mate. I'm a good guy. It was a clear foul, but you know what? It was near the end of the game. Didn't want him being in a bad spot, so I'm going to sort a mate out. What fucking bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They're a laughing stock, and they shouldn't exist. I think we talked about bringing international referees in because we just have such a shit pool. I think there's very few you can count and say are decent refs.
I think a suggestion I've heard recently, and I know we're close out of time, so I'll be quick. Was a third party professional company that monitors VAR, and I think that's the healthiest, at least, situation that I've heard suggested. You guys we don't really have the time, I guess, but maybe this is something we could talk about later.
Yeah, we'll revisit this in the future. We'll see what if anything comes of this. We'll revisit again. I just hope we don't have anything to talk about after Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was absolute nonsense. I mean,
yeah,
and I remember that game vividly. I remember that was the Thomas Tuchel and Conte handshake.
Yeah, the handshake when he won.
Yeah.
That was at the bridge. So I don't know why he was thinking he was getting.
That was my first thought. I mean, it would have made him popular.
Yeah, exactly, because they were at home. He's a fucking idiot. That makes you think more and more it's corrupt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be an advocate for Chelsea, but that's appalling.
Yeah,
it was appalling. Yeah.
I just thought we had to touch on that. It's too big and
of course,
bad not to. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tonight. I'm looking forward to getting absolute pelters for my Tierney takes. So
I've prepared my tweet already.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Put it in writing.
Come
on, put it in writing.
I can rely on you. All right, lads. Well, I will see you early next week when we'll go over the Fulham game and hopefully no corrupt refereeing. So I will see you later, boys.
Cheers, James.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.